Hey everyone, welcome back. I am going to be working with this month's mixed media kit. This month's kit has a smaller gel plate in it, some white gloss paint, and 4 gloss sprays from Dina Wakley Media. I also have some of my own gel plates here. I have my 8x10 here, and I have a few small shape ones that I will be bringing in. But I kind of really want to talk about, you don't necessarily need to get special gel plate specific tools to work with them. You can make your own. I'm just using some cardboard. I just cut some out from a cardboard box, and just some craft foam and my hot glue gun. And I just cut random shapes out, made little pieces, and they work really good with gel plates for just making marks or for lifting the paint if you wanted the negative image. So you can see I just kind of did this to show. I have a few that I've already had done in the past, but I don't want you to think that you need extra special tools to work with gel plates. You can use things around your house, common everyday items, to work with gel plates and work with this kit. I even have one where I took a layer of the corrugated cardboard off so that there's only the corrugated part showing, and made it into a stamp without any foam or anything. So I will be using that later on. That mat I found at the Dollar Tree. It's like one of those mats that you would put in your kitchen sink, but I liked the grid of it, so I'll be using that kind of like as a stencil. You can just use a hot glue gun and make your own shapes, make your own hot glue stencils, which is what I have going there. I have this piece of cardstock, well, printed paper, and I just was rough cutting out those leaves that I will use as masks on the gel printing. Alright, so I'm trying to get everything set up. This didn't work out the way it should have. I think my toner in my ink or in my laser printer was getting low, so it wasn't making the barrier it was supposed to. But you can use a laser print to lift paint. I guess I should say the part of the paper that doesn't have any toner on it would absorb the paint, and then the places with toner wouldn't, so it would leave it behind. That's how it's supposed to work. I think my toner was getting low, so it wasn't on as thick as it should have been. So the first one I did, you could see I used that little stamp that I had just made at the beginning of this video. Used it to lift up some of the paint off the jelly, put my paper down, and then brought it up. This one, I put those cut out foliage pieces down and added some purple paint. I came through with my corrugated cardboard little stamp and added that for some lines. And then I have these little wooden eggs. I just found them at Walmart one day, grabbed them up as a little 4-pack. Because of the type of wood here, because it's very porous, it works very well because it absorbs that paint and helps lift it. And the big thing about jelly printing is it really allows for layering. Like I don't really come through and clean up very much. I kind of just keep layering on top of layers to see what I can come up with, see what I can get. You can add string. You saw me add some string there. Makes nice impressions. This is some heavy body paint that I've had for a while, long while, that I had laid down, and I got some large craft sticks and they lifted it up. So now I'm making some large stripes. I added some of the tangerine spray from this month's kit into the blank areas. That tool right there, I've had for years. I had got it in some sort of distressing kit, but I've kept it, and it makes nice marks in there. A lot of this week's project isn't really so much an end result, but just going over ways to use jelly printing. That right there was once again my corrugated cardboard stamp. And actually with jelly printing, it's like the cheaper the paper, it's almost better, because the lower quality paper, like regular copy paper, this is some old paper. You can see it's actually has some aging to it. It's really kind of thin, and it works really good on absorbing. And I had left it there for a while, because the more you let it dry on there, it's sort of like you use the paper to clean your jelly plate. So that's what I was doing there. I use whatever paper's around to clean off my roller. And you can kind of just see different layering effects and whatnot. This is that little citrus slice stencil or die cut. I have it in, I'll have a link for that. But you could see, because it's a die cut, because it was made out of paper, it worked really good to lifting and leaving a negative imprint for me to use those Dina Wakley sprays on. And you can kind of see right here, I'm kind of working simultaneously. There in that lower left corner is actually the jelly print plate that is in this month's kit. But for the purposes of this project, it's really just, I'm using my my big 8x10 just because I can show so many things simultaneously. This is that mat. It's a sink mat. I found it at the Dollar Tree, so didn't really cost very much. Makes a really, really nice stencil. I love the pattern. I kind of let things dry in between. I come in with my homemade stamps. I add another layer of stencil, and this is a honeycomb stencil, like Tim Holtz fade texture fade stencil thing. It came in a previous Tres Jolie kit. You can see those eggs also, they leave an imprint. So I'm leaving negatives behind on my jelly plates. I'm able to fill them in. I'm adding layers and layers and layers of paint. This is a metallic paint that had came in a previous Tres Jolie kit, a purplish gold paint. Let me see, it's a Lumiere paint, Halo Violet Gold. It was from the May 2019 mixed media kit, but I really kind of liked it. You know, I tried to keep my colors together, matching, going with, and coordinating with those sprays that were in this month's kit. So you can see here, I sprayed that the purple, is it the eggplant? I don't think it's the eggplant. I can't think of the name of the purple spray in the kit this month. Through that little sink mat. I came in with craft sticks. I added some striping, and this is just some regular lavender paint. It's a matte paint. It was in the January 19 mixed media kit. I'm using that smaller pad. I used it on the left. It kind of makes an ink pad type thing, a stamp pad, so I can lift off of it, add layers. I was going back and forth. I'm just kind of going in and layering and layering and layering. I have a darker paint in here, Pavement. That one was from my stash. You can use fabric. That was some cheesecloth to add some texture and some lift. And then I backed all of that I've been working on with just some white paper or with some white paint, and came in with tissue paper. You can use like any kind of paper or material that you can get your hand on, really, on jelly plates. I actually right there that I was using on this month's the jelly plate in this month's kit that's there in that left hand corner, I just hand drew some circles. I think on that one I was using just the end of a paintbrush because it's rounded, like the end of the handle. You don't want to use sharp objects on your jelly plate, but I think of jelly plates just about, I think anything can be used as a tool, as making marks, adding textures. I have often found that gel printing is incredibly addictive. I end up with so many papers. Not everything is going to come out as a masterpiece. I think half the fun, maybe 80% of the fun of jelly printing is the experimentation. I love experimenting with them, seeing how they layer up, seeing how things work. And one of the things I think actually is really, really great about the glossy sprays and the glossy paint in this month's kit is they act as a resist. So I will have some papers come up that after they had dried, in the areas that did not have that glossy spray on them, they absorbed a different color. Here you can see I'm working, these are the shapes. I have a triangle and a circle and a square that's off screen. And I'm just kind of working with everything together now. My big 8x10, the one from this month's kit, which I don't remember what size it is right now, 3x5 maybe? I don't have the package nearby. And I'm just kind of coming in, working with everything together. Just kind of really seeing what I can do to get things printed, and seeing how everything's working, and mixing colors, and trying not to make mud, but still trying to mix colors. So sometimes drying is necessary in between layers. Sometimes it's best to let an entire layer dry. You don't have to worry about it. You can let your paints dry on your jelly plate, because when you come back and add another layer of paint, it will pick it all up. And you'll see that coming in later, where I do let something just completely dry and then come back and pick it all up. This is just another, I had done, made my own stamp of X's, came through adding those X's on top of layers on top of layers, and there's so many layers with jelly printing, and I absolutely love it. I think it's great. I have some tangerine paint, lemon paint, Dina Wakley's. Those paints had been in previous Tres Jolie kits. Let me see if I can't grab them up. The October 2020 kit had some Dina Wakley paints in it that match. Well, it had the tangerine and the lemon in it that matched those glossy sprays in this month's kit. I have to say, with this month's mood board, I don't know why, but I absolutely loved the citrus slices on the mood board. That's why I put this little quick little cut file together. It worked well. There was the tangerine and the lemon and the lime sprays in this month's kit, so it worked really well together. You could see there, I actually kind of spilled over, used the non-stick mat on my board to mix paint up so that I could stamp onto other areas. This is a juicy pear from my stash, a Vicky Boutin. I don't know for sure how to say her last name, but it was juicy pear paint that I put down first, and I come in with my lemon paint, and I kind of let it dry because I was adding that purple spray, which purples and yellows mixed together will create mud because they are opposite each other on the color wheel. This was a silver paint. I know there was a bottle of silver paint, at least I'm pretty sure there was a bottle of silver paint just in this past December's mixed media kit. The one I'm using is one I have from December of 20 mixed media kit, but I'm pretty sure there was also a silver paint in the 2021 mixed media kit for December. Another great thing, paint pens. I just drew on some flowers onto my jelly print. I let it dry most of the way, and then I kind of just went back in with that little paper and picked up some of the heavier puddles. I added that juicy pear to my stems to fill in between the black that I had used. I picked up some flower prints, and then I came in here and added some white paint, and then just used like the end of a one of those craft sticks to draw the stems through that white paint, so that I was able to kind of lift everything back up. And there you have more prints being pulled. You can still see some things left behind. I came in and filled in those citrus slices with one of my paint pens. I just really just had fun with all of this. After I think this is the one where I had lit the previous design dry, and then I came back in and added the white paint, just to really get it lifted up off those jelly plates. Alright, this is when you get done, if you find yourself surrounded by a mess, which I always do, those Ranger brayers, they come apart. You can just pop them right on out. And I just let them soak in just regular rubbing alcohol, the 70% alcohol. I would suggest a well-ventilated area. That's a lot of alcohol to try to smell, but I just let it soak. And it loosens that paint up. And depending on how many layers you have, like my larger brayer kind of took a little bit more, but the smaller brayer that I had just used from this month's kit didn't take as long. And I just put everything in there that I wanted cleaned up. Not the jelly plates. Don't use alcohol in the jelly plates. The best way to clean your jelly plates is just paint and paper. And that's what I have sitting there, is my 8x10 jelly plate, and I had put a layer of paint on it. I added my paper, and I'm actually kind of letting it dry on that plate so that when I lift, it will just peel right up. My homemade stamps, I don't clean those. There's, those sort of things don't really need cleaning. I just worry about my tools, like my brayers. Too much paint buildup, they get kind of sticky. Because I had this month's jelly plate, that 3x5 jelly plate on there, on one of my acrylic blocks, I put that in with my alcohol. I'm still just kind of letting that dry, and I'm gonna go over how I clean up my glass craft mat here. You can pour alcohol straight on and just let it soak. My desk isn't entirely level, so I just pull out paper towels, and I lay a layer of paper towels down on my mess, and then I soak those paper towels with the alcohol and let it set and really just loosen up all of those acrylic paints and those sprays that had dried. Alright, I have everything cleaned up, and now I'm gonna go over what you can do with all of those papers that you made. This right here, I did try to get some laser printed images that had a lot more black areas on them, but this is when I found out that I probably just didn't have enough toner, so it wasn't making the block like it should have. But I've seen it done. I know it's supposed to work. I just need to get a new toner for my printer and try again. Alright, so now different ways also to use this month's mixed media kit, and ways to use all of those original prints that you have created. I have my art journal here. You can use an art journal, and especially with the smaller plate, which for the rest of this I'm just using the plate that came in this month's kit, and those are oil pastels. The oil pastels make a nice resist on the papers, so I was doing that. I drew in my images with the oil pastels, and then came in and added color with the jelly plate. And then I came in, kind of still worked on those eggs, trying to make them, get them finished up. They were just the right size. They're only like 3 inches wide. They were like the exact width of that jelly plate from this month's kit. So I do come through, add some more layers to them, and I just add some splatters to this particular egg. I try to add just a little bit more interest to what I had already done. Now that everything was dry, to kind of really see what I would be working with. Alright, these are all of the papers that I have from earlier in this video and from in my final video of the month. I also have jelly printing in there, so some of those papers were from that. But this is just going to be some ideas of what you can do with all of that. Cut them up. Once you kind of get them cleaned up, you can really see what you have. So I'm using them. I'm putting them on this tag. I'm using some of those paint marker flowers on this tag base. I have this little flower filled egg stencil. I don't know where it came from. I've had it for years. So I kind of lined it up and used it with the sprays, just to kind of add a bit of floral to those eggs and to the paper. This is also where I use, this is just a white oil pastel, and I use it just to make a resist. So you can see I spray that all the way on, and then I just lift it off where that oil is. I just used those one of those wooden eggs just as a stencil. This is where you can really see that light purple paper already had some of those glossy sprays on it. You can see there across the center that kind of the lime that had been dried there. So it did not absorb the new sprays that I added on that added that purple around, because those glossy sprays, once dried, do act as a very nice resist. You can turn your papers into envelopes, which is what I'm doing here. This one's just for sample. It's just regular copy paper, so it's kind of thin. If you were going to plan ahead and you knew you were going to be making envelopes, I would use some heavier paper. And I do end up turning this into 2 envelopes because I kind of have my citrus look on one side, and then I put the eggs on the other. Like I said, this isn't necessarily a project video, but a using the jelly plate video, and just really trying to give you some ideas if you haven't had experience with jelly plates, on what you can do with them and what you can do with what you make from them. This is just another paint pen, and I'm just using it to color in those citrus slices on the egg. And in some places I don't even use a brush. I actually just kind of use the end of the spray tube from the bottles to spread color around. Right there I just used a brush right in the bottle to add some color to those flowers. I come back on my eggs after my designs had dried and just start kind of layering some of those sprays in, drying them in between, or at least partly drying them in between. And so here you can see I'm working on the parts that I do end up adding to my little envelope. I have this egg shape that I use kind of as the background egg. behind the one that I had wrote Happy Easter on. Coming back through, this is my tag. Everything had dried, and I'm just using a Stabilo pencil. It's very, very, very water reactive, but it basically writes on anything. So I used it to kind of add some grungy shadows to this tag. It's very easy to spread with your finger, which I did here, just around the edges to kind of highlight them a bit more. I kind of came in here with the white paint from the kit just to give some highlights around the different layers I have. Kind of make those slices stand out a little bit more, and kind of go around my eggs. I also have some pins that I come in and add finer details onto my various pieces. You'll notice that some of these pins, like the one that I just used there, that kind of limeish green one, it actually lightens as it dries. So it makes a really kind of cool effect. All of the pins are in the blog post that I use. Well, the brand of pin that I used and the particular lines, like some of them are like jelly rolls and some of them are moonlight and glaze, but I have all of those listed in the blog post for the product list. And this is where I said at this point in time I did not want to have to get back up and wash another paintbrush out, so I actually did just use the end of the sprayer from the bottle just to kind of spread some of those sprays on. They worked really well, actually. It kind of allows for some pooling and whatnot in there. Doing the same thing there. Filling in my citrus slices. Using the pins with them just to bring out some of the color. And this is kind of where I want to show you. When your prints are first done and you have those kind of raw edges, rough edges, they don't necessarily, they may look kind of messed up or wrong, but once you kind of start cleaning up those edges and looking at the different elements on them, you can really see how those prints work together. I think that one might be one of my favorites. It came out really well. I love how those citrus slices came out on it. You can see the ones that I made out of the shapes. If I just cut around those shapes, now I have printed shapes. Great for layering those pieces together now. I'm just really kind of, if you look at your papers and you think they came out wrong, try cutting them apart, making them smaller, looking at the individual areas of those prints. And here, this is one last thing you can do with those, because they make such great background papers. I just grabbed up an ATC card. Those are some Prima ATC cards, a box that had came in the March 2020 cards, tags, and more kit, and I still had some in there. And I just layered on some of those papers. I went to my sewing machine. I stitched on, just randomly stitched on. And I was going to actually try to use that little egg flower stencil on it, but it slid on me, so I ended up more with some white splotches, which worked fine. I went to my embellishment drawer, grabbed up some packages I've had for ages that have some parts already missing, and just added a few extra touches to it. But you can see that using those pieces from the prints worked really well. Great background papers. You get some really good color combinations that maybe you hadn't necessarily thought of. Sometimes you find out two colors do not work well together, but with jelly printing, really have to do to fix any mistakes that you may think you have, just add another layer. So there's the half of the envelope that had the Happy Easter on it. Like I said, I ended up cutting it in half, and now they're kind of, the two sides are kind of closer to maybe gift card size. The little summer fruity one. And then my eggs, which are now dried. So there is everything. All of my papers, I have that bag there. That is a bag I keep of random scraps of paper, random jelly prints I've done in the past, and it's just kind of my collage paper bag, so I always know where to look. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, give a thumbs up, turn on notifications, and feel free to share this video. Thank you for joining us here this week. I hope that I was able to maybe kind of demystify gel plates if you hadn't used one before. Gel plates can be used with other mediums besides just paint. You can use them with sprays. Hopefully you will go out and experiment and explore. Thank you, and I will see you again next week.